Hello, are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
able to hear?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, can you please walk through like what kind of experience, how many years of experience, what kind of roles and responsibilities on
Yeah. So I've been into IT industry since 5 years, and so in DevOps I'm working from last 4 years,
Mhm,
and I've worked in couple of tools like Jenkins, Maven, and Ansible, and in few of the projects like wherein we wanted to do automation for the manual activities. So I've worked on shell scripting and the containerization tool like Docker and Kubernetes.
mhm,
And Artifactory, I've used JFrog and Nexus.
mhm,
So, and also for monitoring, I've used Prometheus and Grafana.
mhm,
And other supporting tools like Vagrant and those kind of things I've used.
mhm.
So these are all the tools that I've worked on.
How many years of experience you are having total?
Total is 5. Relevant like in DevOps, so it is 4.
Do you have a cloud exposure, like any cloud experience into something like Microsoft Azure or AWS?
Yeah, AWS I have experience, but yeah, it was kind of like POC. I mean, like we wanted to implement the AWS, so we just used Terraform, and so then we used to create individual services. But project experience, though, I mean, it's not that much in AWS cloud things.
Okay, that's fine. But you know the basics, basic detail, basic information about the
Yes,
services and
yes,
all, right?
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah.
So once you get a chance, maybe you can explore onto these services and you can try to finish the task, right?
Yes, yes,
In
yeah,
case, okay,
yeah.
fine. Let me come to like from starting from this continuous integration to continuous delivery.
Okay,
So you said like you have worked on couple of tools
yeah,
like Maven, Gradle, GitHub, Bitbucket, and all.
yes, yes, yeah.
So before jumping into Maven or something, let's first understand like how the GitHub and like how GitHub process, what is the branching strategy you are following it, and when during production, so how are you going to handle it for merging request from so and so branch to so and so branch? So I want to know the process of the branching strategy.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the project. So
Mm-hmm,
because I've involved in multiple projects, right? So in
mm-hmm,
one of the project, it was what they used to do is like master branch is a stable one, and they'll be having one more develop branch. So from develop branch, so every developer or whoever wants to contribute to that particular project, so they'll gonna create a feature branch.
mm-hmm.
And then so what they'll do, they'll create a feature branch, and then they'll write their code, and then after that, like they'll gonna push it back to the repository, and then they'll raise a PR to merge it back to develop. So in this PR, so you should add like reviewers, like your managers or
I
senior
have one
people.
question here.
Yeah.
During production, right?
Hmm.
So your code is like base code, whatever the latest code,
Hmm.
which is into production, like
Hmm.
before going to production, like pre-prod.
Hmm.
So your code is merged into something, there should be some branches, right? Like maintenance branch or something. You must be having the branching
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
right?
So,
So,
I mean, out from developer master, so they're gonna create a release branch. So
mhm.
from the release branch, it'll go to production.
Okay, okay.
So,
So it
and
will be merged after once it is going to the production and successfully merged. So you are going to merge it.
yeah, once the merge is done, like successfully that is merged is done, so that feature
Mhm,
branch to developer and master. So
mhm,
then, I mean, we in our projects, like we had some timeline. So every month or every 15 days, we wanted to give a release. So that
mhm.
time, so the release branch will be created, and even the tags will be created. So for that particular branch, and then
Is this a major release or like minor release or something kind of? So
it will be released as a major version. So wherein
okay.
we have another branch which is hotfix. So
Mhm.
wherein like it will be like small production changes if it is simple changes and all. So they used to do that, and when we release hotfixes though, so then that will be our minor versions.
Mhm. Okay. Perfect. So coming to this APIs, have you heard about GitHub APIs?
Yes, yes. So
Mm,
I have told you, right, like I've
mm,
worked on many automation things and all. So
mhm,
one of the, I mean, requirement for us was like we wanted to identify, we had almost like 200 to 300 repos. So we
mhm,
wanted to identify which branches are inactive. Means
mhm,
like since 2 months, so what are
mhm,
all the branches they have not updated. So that
mhm,
we considered it as like inactive. So and
mhm,
then, so we wanted to identify those things.
mhm,
So the major issue was like few of the repos had like more than 200 branches. So
mhm,
doing it manually, it was very difficult actually.
mhm, mhm,
So that's the reason. So we used to like use the APIs, and then we used to get the branches and all. So
mhm.
that we used to do. So and a lot of other things as well. Like not only that branches, a lot of other things we used to do.
Okay,
I mean,
this API you have worked on it, whether it is a Bitbucket API or like GitHub API.
yes, Bitbucket and GitHub both I've worked on. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So let me can you tell me one thing about how you can list out the repositories based on this API? What is the structure you are going to follow?
Yeah, so first we need to have that, our internal servers, whatever the address is, and
Huh?
then we need to have slash REST API, slash you
Mhm,
need to, maybe like, I don't exactly remember that, then you need to
mhm,
have some authentication. So,
mhm,
not authentication, you need to give repos,
mhm,
and the REST slash API slash
mhm,
repos. When you give that, like it will gonna list out all the repos in that particular under that particular username. So you need to
okay,
supply like hyphen u username and colon password you need to supply. So for that particular repo, that particular user, what are all the repos are there, it will gonna list.
okay, 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 perfect. So when it comes to webhooks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked on webhooks? What is the basic idea of webhooks? Can you tell me?
Yeah, so if any event happens like in GitHub or Bitbucket, like let's say some commit has happened or
Mhm,
somebody some deleted some branches. So any activity that happens in GitHub, so if you want to report it to any tools like Jenkins or anywhere like, so
mhm,
that time you can definitely use webhooks, and so it will gonna inform that particular system. So what has happened.
mhm, mhm.
So for that, reason we will use webhooks.
Okay, okay, okay. One thing, when you try to add these configurations, right? Git config and
Uh-huh.
so you are going to set the first initially
Mhm.
this username and all. Which file you are going to edit it in that case?
I don't remember, but by using command, actually git config.email,
Mm-hmm,
you can give set it, but I don't remember the file exactly. But I guess, so when you install git, so there will be a folder which is created,
mm-hmm,
git underscore core,
mm-hmm.
so like that, like under that folder, so maybe we have a global config file, so wherein we will set all those things.
Okay, okay. Also, have you worked on this Maven or Gradle?
Yeah, I'm
Which
comfortable
one?
with Maven.
Okay, perfect. So can you tell me like pom.xml, which it has some structures, right? Like when it comes to build and dependencies.
Yeah,
So if let's say I have some X dependency,
okay.
what is this like? How are you going to pick the structure, and where you are going to pick the structure, and along with the version, what is the
Uh,
syntax?
Yeah, so if you want to create any project
Mm-hmm,
like in Maven, so you need to definitely have pom.xml. In that mandatory fields there, you need to have the initial tag, that XML tag, and after that you need to have GAVs, group ID, artifact ID, and version. And it depends on project what you're developing. Like if you want to have dependencies or plugins, so depending on your requirement, you can search like. In the Maven documentation itself, so there will be a, central repository, right? They have a good documentation. So where you will go and you will fetch the group ID, artifact ID, and versions of that dependency, and you will define it under your dependency tag. So if it is a plugin, so you will define it under plugins. And
mm-hmm,
there are many other fields like packaging is there, and so. You can have a mail list and distribution management. So there are a couple of fields that you can use it.
Mhm. Okay. So I have one question here. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of dependencies. Like let's say I have a bulk of dependencies,
Okay.
like near about 30 to 40 dependencies.
Okay.
I want to upload them to the Nexus.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
So these dependencies, I want to upload them
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that I don't have internet connection in my build server.
Okay.
Okay. So
Uh-huh.
I have to do it a
Mm-hmm.
manual way.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the command to which command is going to use the upload like dependencies in Maven.
MVN deploy. I don't know. I'm confused a bit. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, so by using MVN deploy, so wherein you can upload whatever the artifact has been generated by a particular project.
Okay. Here, is this a possible to upload? See, MVN deploy, you have to do each iteration, right?
Yeah.
One after each other, and you have
Yeah.
to send in a
Yes.
specific
Yes.
format,
Yeah.
packaging format.
Yeah.
Let's say you have something related to automation or like
Mm-hmm.
related to pipeline plugin or
Yeah.
something. You want to send it, right?
Correct.
There should be some structure like com.org dot something Apache
Mm-hmm.
related plugins and all.
Yeah.
So every time you have to give a Maven deploy and then followed
Mm-hmm.
by package
Mm-hmm.
name and whatever it is,
Yeah.
whether it is a jar file or POM file or distribution files
Yeah.
you want to push. So can we do it through script and together and send it?
Maybe possible, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, like how we can do it. Maybe some options definitely will be there with a Maven, but
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Can you tell me the life cycle of Maven?
Yeah, so life cycle, there are like three build stages,
Mm-hmm.
build life cycles. One is clean, default, and site. So in default, we have 7 stages. So wherein the first one is verify. So
Mm-hmm.
verify just verifies whether whatever the given information is proper and the syntax of the pom.xml is proper or not. And then we have uh, so after that we have compile. So it'll compile your code. It'll gonna create .class files.
Mm-hmm.
So for you intermediate class files, and then we have test. So when it'll apply the test cases, unit test cases on your created .class files, and then we have package. So it'll create the artifact for us, and then we have verify. So verify is for applying the integration test cases on created war file, and then we have install and deploy. Install is for like local installation. So there is something called as .m2 folder, so which is called as Maven's local repository. When we will copy the war file to that particular place, and MVN deploy will like used for deploying the jar file, war file to a repository, private repository.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have one use case in Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, can you tell me the process how you can move or copy Jenkins from one server to another server?
So we can basically we can copy .jenkins
Mm-hmm.
folder from
Mm-hmm.
one server to another server, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can start the Jenkins there with the same configuration. So with the
Mm-hmm.
same job, everything like plugins,
Mm-hmm.
configurations, everything. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want specific job, so you can use there are a couple of plugins
Mm-hmm.
for that, or else like you can manually go to .jenkins folder and you can take you need to go for jobs folder, and under
Mm-hmm.
that job folder, so for each job will have a config.xml. You can copy that and you can paste it wherever you need, and then you can in that server you need to go to manage Jenkins and reload from disk. You need to do so that that job will be displayed on your Jenkins.
Okay. Okay. When it comes to plugins, right, in
Mm-hmm.
Jenkins, so can you explain me about there are few important roles and like plugins in Jenkins?
Yeah, so whenever like see at the
Let's say
time.
you want to write a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some prerequisites, and you have to download the plugins and in order to proceed the pipeline, right?
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
so
So
that's it.
if you want to write pipelines, so you need to have a pipeline plugin. So that has to be installed. And so obviously you might use many tools like Maven, or it can be Gradle, anything. So related plugins you definitely need to use, like Docker and all, like Gradle, Maven plugins you should install before using it. And yeah, so I mean, like, at the time of installation, it will give a suggestion like install all the suggested plugins. So when you click on that, the basic plugins will be installed. But if you want, in case, like, you can go to manage plugins and then you can install whichever you need.
Okay. Okay. When it comes to these parallel executions, right, the number of jobs,
Yeah.
You can set a threshold value, threshold limit
Yeah.
in Jenkins, right? So
Yeah.
where you can do that configuration?
So we will be having an option. I guess the parallel execution itself. So we're in the first general section itself, and you can specify number of threads here, like executors. Like so wherein whatever the number you give, so it will be executed. So do you mean like the job should be executed parallelly, or like
Let's say
single job?
you based on your hardware or like based on your RAM requirements, right?
Mm-hmm.
There should be some only the limit, only you can run parallelly 3 to 4 jobs. Let's say you got any requirement that you have to run parallelly at least minimum 8 to 10 jobs. In that you have to procure like you have to request them to increase the memory and these things in order to handle it.
Yeah.
So that increasing like number of executors parallel job.
Yeah, we can set the executors. Like we'll have a section wherein we can set in the master itself we can set executor, number of executors. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. In your build server, do you have a master slave concept?
Yes, we have. Yes, yeah.
Okay. So how many slave missions are there?
Slave missions, it is like 6 missions.
Okay.
And so I mean, like master, and we have slaves. So to distribute the load, and also we are making sure like all the applications has a Docker in it, because we are using a node as a Docker, so that like if something is missing, so I mean, so we don't need to install Maven and Gradle explicitly. So when we have a Docker, so we can specify the image and we can run on that.
Okay, come to here, like when it comes to agile methodologies, people talk about more into the agile methodology and SDLC, right?
Yeah.
What is the main difference between agile methodology and SDLC?
So SDLC is, I mean, like wherein once you take the requirement, so maybe it freezes, like it freezes, like you will work on it and then give the product to the customer. Wherein Agile, so it has some sprints, and so what I mean, depending on the requirement, like if a customer needs a very important feature to be implemented, but you are working on something. So if that is so important, then you can jump on to that task and then you can come back and you can work on that. So this is Agile, like the customer, I mean, whatever he gives, like the importance will be there, and for each and every task there will be a specific time which is assigned. But wherein SDLC, so you'll take a bulk requirement, until unless that is finished, you won't take anything. So you're in Agile, you're giving credibility to the customer, wherein we can give the changes, and so we can work on it. So I mean, you can take a new features and you can implement it. So that kind of thing.
Okay. Coming to Nexus, you said like you worked on it Nexus, right?
Yeah.
So Nexus, what are the activities you are going to perform in Nexus? So like let's say some person, or like let's say developers want to view the distributions, like Maven distributions or NPM node modules and distributions and all. So in that case, how are you going to give the access to them?
Admin part, sorry, I have not worked on. So my part was like just creating a repository and configuring it in like Maven, those kind of stuff. So administration, no, I have not worked on.
Okay, perfect. No issues. So you worked on even SonarQube also, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So SonarQube, what is the difference between Sonar quality gate and quality profile?
So quality profile is basically, I mean, you'll define like what is the condition. Means like how your profile, in the sense it's kind of a rule. In a layman terms, if I want to tell, it's a rule. So wherein like quality gates is like you're putting some condition. So you need to meet these conditions and then only you can proceed. So profile is like something rule you're creating. Like, so for example, like if a customer has a requirement, the class name should start with capital letter and end with capital letter. So then you can create some rules, profiles like sonar profiles and rules. So wherein quality gate is like you're telling that like if five classes which doesn't have these conditions, it's fine. If it is classes more than 5, then you need to make sure it is fails.
Okay. Okay. This sonar cube, right? So as soon as you go to, like, let's say first you're going to do the sonar scan, and then and when as soon as your quality condition is not it is not going to meet the condition, obviously you have to fail the job, right?
Yeah, correct.
So that activity, where are you going to specify in the build as part of build job?
Yeah, so we have integrated Sonar with Maven itself. So we will do MVN. So before, like once the code is checked out, the next step we will use is MVN Sonar. Okay, so what it does, it will communicate with the Sonar cube, and then so it will just like check the quality gates. So in that we will have a block wherein like quality gate is okay or not. So we have a class wherein like it gives returns as like whether the quality gate is success or not. So, I mean, once that is done, so it will just check for the quality gates. So we will get some response. So if it is true, so then then proceed. Or else like then fail. And if we have configured any mailing things in like in the post block, so then we will do that. So yeah, the first step will be that once the checkout is done.
Okay. Have you worked on Ansible?
Yes, I worked on it.
Let's say I want to see the list of like how many Ansible variables are available. So how can you list out that? How do you see the list of variables, Ansible variables? Any idea?
Not sure about it.
Okay.
Sorry.
At least to test the connectivity between your host, like which command you are going to use it.
We can use setup module and ping module. So to check like whether the connection is there or not.
Okay. So as part of this automation process, like automation activities, right? You might have written some playbooks, no?
Yeah, correct.
What kind of playbooks it was, and so what it's got benefited the customer based on your automation effort?
So basically, we have used we're in a place like we wanted to integrate Helm and then Docker. So there we used to use Ansible. Okay, so there I specify. We have used Ansible. So what it does is like, so we will give a Docker image as an input and also a Helm charts as input. So Ansible, the first thing is according to the environment, we used to take a particular values. So that is stored in the Ansible playbooks itself. So in some of the folders, apply those things onto the Helm charts and render it, and then deploy it onto Kubernetes cluster. So there we have used, and for the small tasks like copying from artifacts from the Jenkins server to the destination, so dev servers, QA servers, those kind of stuff we have did. And also, so in our project, like we wanted to do a couple of like automation, like if a new person comes, so rather than doing the setup manually, so we wrote a Ansible playbook wherein if they run that playbook, so all the setup will be done. So we have avoided much wastage of setup time. Okay.
These modules, where you can pull out a list of modules, Ansible modules?
We have a good documentation like Ansible docs, so we have all the modules information about that. So we can just get whatever like the modules that we need.
Okay. So when it comes to containerization, right? So what are the advantages that containerization provides over the virtualization concept?
Containerization is basically, virtualization has few disadvantages. Like So when you install a virtual machine on top of one OS, so basically virtual machine will also have OS. So whenever the main machine goes off, so it'll take let's say it'll take 1 minute to come up. Okay. So and to come up virtual machine also it'll take 1 more minute because there are two different OSs. Okay, so the sum of that is 2 minutes. Wherein in containerization, so the containers don't have its own OS. So it will use the OS which is underlying in the installed machine. Okay, so here in this case, like the uptime, the uptime for the machine will be only the underlying OS. So it doesn't know the time required for in virtualization for the virtual machine is not required here. So that like that even 1 minute matters in real time projects. So that is one thing. And virtual machine images are very highly way. I mean, like if you want to install it, like it'll be the file configuration files itself, it'll be like more than 2 GB, 3 GB files. So wherein in containerization, it's very lightweight. And that is one more advantage. And so the other things like memory wastage, we can avoid that as well. So once if you allocate like 4 GB for a virtual machine, so you can't take it back from that virtual machine.
Okay, perfect. I have one question here. So, as soon as your Docker container exits, right? Am I going to lost the am I going to lose my data or something? Like what will happen when as soon as container exits?
Yes. So if you don't have volumes attached to your container, so then definitely the data which you have in container will be lost. So that's like if it is persistent application, so then you should attach a volume or a mounting so that like even container exits, so you'll have the data and you can attach it back whenever you create a new container or whenever it comes back.
Okay. What is the meaning of Docker Swarm and what kind of how are you going to declare your applications or whatever it may be, like 2-tier or 3-tier applications? So what is it basically, Docker Swarm?
Docker Swarm is basically the configuring because see containers you'll create on a machine. Okay, so you need to have some management over your machines as well, because if you keep on create containers on one machine, so definitely it will gonna even that has a memory, so it'll gonna be consumed, and so it won't be able to take any more load. So to handle those things and basically managing the nodes and the containers, so where it should go, so which node is perfect for that particular container. So this kind of management we will go for Docker Swarm. So which is, if I want to say, like it is similar to Kubernetes, wherein so it will manages the node and it tells like where the container should be created and what memory should be assigned, and so those kind of stuffs it will give.
Okay. So you have specified this your activity as part of your current project, right?
Yeah.
You said like you worked on Kubernetes, creating Kubernetes objects,
Yeah.
like deployment, service, and ingress and service accounts,
Yeah,
and
correct.
config
Yeah.
map. So can you explain about detailed information, like what is this Kubernetes object, and where is this ingress is used, and what kind of service you have used it for deployments?
So if you want to take an application, so it is not only the deployment. So deployment is actually a small part. So supporting to that, there are many things. Like deployment is like just you're creating a deployment of your application, and to be accessed from the outside world. So you should create a service or an ingress. Okay. Services, basically there are a couple of types, like cluster IP, node IP, so node port, something like that. So cluster IP, so if you want to access your application inside your cluster itself, inside your Kubernetes network, so then you can go for that. If somebody wants to access that particular application from outside the world, so then you need to go for node port. And then with that, like we have many other objects like config maps or secrets. So if you want to copy any configuration from file from your local onto pod, so then we can use config maps. And if you want to create any key value pairs, environment variables or something like that, you can use config maps that time as well. And ingress, coming to ingress, so it is basically, so if you have one single service, single application, so then you don't need to go for that. So if you have a couple of many applications that is deployed on your cluster, so then you can go for it. So wherein it gives good security, and also like with the same address, like if you want to tell in a common way, so like let's say we have a Facebook. Okay, so when we say Facebook slash home, so it goes to home page. When you say Facebook slash something like books, so it might go to some books page. So if you want to implement those kind of thing, like you'll use the same address, but depending on the last part, like handler part, so you need to redirect your application to something else, then you can go for ingress. Basically, it is for routing.
Okay.
And then we have a couple of objects like network policies, and so these are the things that I've used.
Yeah, people talks about more into this zero downtime deployments, right?
Yeah.
So how do you deploy the feature with the zero downtime in Kubernetes?
So so deployment, we can see we have something called as liveness and readiness probes, and so whenever the container goes, replica set will take care about will be taken care about your pods. Like if it is down.
One quick question. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
You are saying replica set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the latest version you are going to use the replica set, and prior to replica set, was there any method instead of replica set?
Yeah, replica controller was there. So before replica set, it is replica controller.
Okay.
When you create a deployment, so it actually creates a replica set and then it creates a pod. So,
okay. Go ahead with this zero downtime.
Yeah, zero downtime. So replica set will be taken care. So whenever your container goes off, like if somebody manually deletes it, so it will make sure whatever the replicas that you count you have given, it will be always maintains that. So let's say if you have given 3, so it will always maintain 3 instances of your application. And apart from that, there is something called as liveness and readiness probe. So when you start your application, so
liveness means in the sense like you are monitoring the pod, right?
Yes. We'll have some endpoint like health or something like, so the configured endpoint. So we can use that, and then we can definitely we can monitor our containers, whether it's performing well or something like that. We can use that like liveness and readiness probes.
Okay. What is the exact difference between you said, right, before this replica set, this replication control were there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Controller.
Yeah.
What is the main difference between a replica controller and replica set?
So in replica set, so whatever the containers, like the labels you will have, right? So you'll specify that, like, so even if like what it does, like if let's say a pod is created already with the same label and you have specified 3. So what it does, so it checks like already 1 has been created. So now it'll, if a replica says 3, so then it will only create 2. So wherein in replication controller, there is no such thing which is called as match labels or something. So that's why it will just create 3 instances of your application.
Okay. Here I have one quick question on rolling updates. As soon as you do the deployment, like you are going to use some rolling updates mechanism, right?
Yes, yeah.
So are these deployments like if you are having more than one replica automatically doing rolling updates when a new deployment config is applied? Okay. So how it is how it is being processed when it comes to rolling update?
Yeah, rolling update, it's like, so let's say you have 3 instances of your application. Okay, so when you do a new deployment you're creating, so that time what it makes sure is like it will make sure one instance is down and it will make sure one is up. Like it will make one down and it makes sure another one new instance is up. So then only it will make sure another another application instance is down. So if it fails, then it will stop that deployment process and throws an error, like there is some error. So you have, the 2 old instances will be still running, but the third one, it's already down. So, the new application, like one pod will be there with you. So one by one, it will make sure one down and one up when the new version comes up.
Okay. Coming to this like shell scripting, have you worked on shell scripting or PowerShell?
It's shell scripting.
Okay. What is this error codes when it comes to success? You might be passing some arguments, right?
Yeah, so I mean, like API calls is something like that, or like there is something called as exit status. So which
Mm-hmm.
gives like if your previous command is like success, so then it returns 0. So when your previous comment, whatever the command is not success, then it is kind of like non-zero value you'll get.
Okay, I have one question, quick question here.
Hmm.
What is this dollar like at symbol? What it is going to do? This
So
command.
dollar at symbol, it gives us all the uh, all the parameters that you have sent from the command prompt, like when you run your shell script, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you dot slash and shell script name, and then if you give the parameters, so like let's say your shell script accepts some parameters, so then it prints all the parameters that you sent from the command prompt.
Okay, I want to display like let's say I have a directory.
Hmm.
I want to only list out directory contains again subdirectories as well as list of files.
Hmm.
I want to display only files, list of files.
Okay.
I want to exclude like these directories and I want
Hmm.
to list. You
Yeah.
have any idea like how we can do through
Yeah,
command?
we can do that. So by using, there is a in shell script there is -f thing. So when you give -f and the file name or a directory name, if it is a file, then it will be true. So if it is not true, so then it is assumed to be some not file, like it can be a directory or it can be something else. So you can use -f, and if you provide a file name in a if loop, you need to loop through each file and then you can do that. And maybe like in ls also there might be an option like -f or something like that. But yeah, if I am there, like I know that like there is an option, we can use -f and the file name, so which is set to be true if it is a file.
Okay, okay. Have you worked on pipelines?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. What kind of pipeline? Whether it is a declarative pipeline or
It's a
so.
declarative
Okay.
one.
Okay. So how are you going to put the stages? How are you going to write the stages? And so what is the process you have followed in your project? How it is got improved when it comes to deployment or build using the pipeline instead of manual build triggers and doing deployments?
Yeah, so pipelines, I mean, we can integrate many things like, so I mean, you can integrate the Maven tool and then Ansible. So whatever the tools that you're dealing with, you can do one after the other. So that is one advantage. And also like Jenkins file, it's a code, the Jenkins configuration as a code. So, I mean, if someone doesn't have access to Jenkins, so then they can see what configurations has been done in the Jenkins by seeing just like Jenkins file.
Hmm. Okay.
So that is one like advantage of Jenkins pipelines.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. See, let's say as soon as my deployment is completed in the last stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to send an email alert to the saying this deployment is successful
Mm-hmm.
and so on, so on, so on, so on artifact I have
Mm-hmm.
deployed to the end server, target
Mm-hmm.
server.
Yeah.
Can we do it through the stage and like send an email alert and what are the prerequisites required as part of in order to send an email alert to the development team or so on, so on teams?
Yeah, so post section, we can use the post section for that. And like
Mm-hmm.
in the post section, so we can use one more section which is called as success. So if it is success, then like we'll configure. So before that, you should configure SMTP server. So you should have one of the SMTP server that should be configured in your Jenkins. So under configure system, you need to configure that. And then some mail list, like you need to in the like post section. So when you're using, so you can so I mean in pipelines we have a beautiful feature like wherein like, so we can generate pipeline syntax. So I used to use that, like, so when you select your mail configuration, so it used to ask like who is like recipients. So when you give that, like you get a line from that snippet generator. So you'll just copy paste in that
Pipeline syntax,
yeah
snippet
pipeline.
generator.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So that way.
Okay, perfect. When it comes to Docker, right, I have one quick question. I want to remove the volumes.
Uh-huh.
I want to delete all the volumes on my current Docker host.
Uh-huh.
Is this possible to do?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay.
Docker volume prune, we can do that, and we can delete it.
Okay. Do you have idea about Python?
No, sorry, I don't have idea. I'm just more into shell scripting.
Okay. So basically, this when you said like you have done some POC on AWS, right?
Yeah.
What kind of it what is the process if you want to give specific roles, and where are you going to do like by granting the access to a so and so person?
Yeah, we can use IAM service for that. So wherein we can give the access based on user, like if they want only for programmatic access, or if they wanted only to access S3 bucket, so then we can create a user and we can select the policies for that particular user, and we can give the credentials for him. Yeah, we can do that by using IAM.
Okay, actually we are using Azure here. So are you willing to work in Azure instead of AWS?
Yeah, that's fine for me. Like, it will be the same. Like, all the cloud, I guess it will be the same. Maybe only the wordings, like the a little concept might be changed. That's all, I guess.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Are you willing to work any shift? Like we have, this is basically it's a UK project. So you may have to work on AWS instead of AWS. You may have to work on Azure services. There are few applications we are hosted on. We have hosted on Azure services. So you should get a knowledge before onboarding it to our project. I'll try to give my feedback to HR, and HR will get back to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have anything, because you mentioned like what work, and so I don't have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.